Hi, and welcome back to another daily dose of anime recaps. What if one day you woke up from a deep slumber only to discover that you have become an extraordinary hero with incredibly powerful abilities?
In this world, it is filled with grotesque and mutated creatures that threaten the existence of humanity. You are the sole individual capable of defeating them, but it comes at the cost of risking your own life. Now, you must make a choice. Will you opt for a peaceful and anxious existence, or will you rise up as a courageous hero and engage in battle? If you're filled with immense enthusiasm, then let's venture into the thrilling manga series called Super Evolution right away. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment to let us know how much you're enjoying it.
Let's go!
The story began with Ming-hee, a high school student in his final year who always ranked last in school. Even the special abilities he possessed, which were bestowed upon him by God, were the most underwhelming. Half a day earlier, there was an entrance examination at the superhuman school where many people participated.
To explain a bit, in this world, there were 5 tiers of superpower, namely White Dust, Blue Spirit, Violet Soul, Red Royal, and Sacred Black.
The school Ming-hee applied to only recruited students with a tier that was at least Blue Spirit or higher. Anything below that was considered inadequate. He placed his hand on a crystal ball along with other candidates, and while the results for them were satisfactory, he alone became the object of ridicule with the lowest ranking White Tranquil level ability. Feeling disappointed, Ming-hee rode his motorcycle swiftly down the road.
The vehicle was moving at quite a high speed when suddenly, a comet appeared in the sky. Ming, he smiled, thinking it might spare him, but unfortunately, he was struck by it instead.
The tremendous explosion created a massive and ominous sinkhole on the ground, causing Ming-hee to fall into a deep unconsciousness. A whole year passed by in the blink of an eye, and one evening, from the depths of a sewer, a giant and fierce mutated parasite emerged. The suburban area located in the south of the city immediately fell into a state of panic, and even the hospital where Ming-hee was admitted fell victim to an unfortunate attack. While everyone was desperately seeking a way to escape, there was one brave nurse who went against the crowd, unable to abandon an unconscious patient lying there. As she touched Ming-hee, the horrifying creature stood right behind her, unnoticed until that moment. Just when it seemed like both of them would become its prey, suddenly, a thunderous explosion occurred. Ming-hee, who had been lying still on the bed just a moment ago, now sat up with a gaze filled with a chilling coldness. The giant mutated parasite got punched and exploded right away, even making a big hole in the wall. After that, he turned and helped the nurse get up. He had been unconscious for a long time, so now he was really curious about what was happening and started asking some questions. According to Nurse Songlan's explanation, the higher-ups told them there was a source of polluted fluids that went to the sewers of the city, infecting the parasites there and causing a mutation.
Remembering the recent punch, she couldn't understand why a student like him could be so strong.
He scratched his head, avoiding the question, and instead told her to quickly leave this place with him. In the hospital hallway, the mutated parasites crawled in. Despite facing them, he remained unusually calm. He threw a strong punch that was sharp enough to easily blow off the heads of some of them. Suddenly, Nurse Songlan screamed. He knew she was in immediate danger, so he smashed an acid vial on a cart, letting it spill onto his hand. Then he punched the parasite with the acid, dissolving its body. Nurse Songlan was saved again, but even in her confused state, she couldn't understand why such a talented person like him was overlooked by the recruiting teacher.
At that moment, the hospital evacuation vehicle was stopped by the swarm of mutated parasites.
A man dressed like a cowboy appeared, carrying 2 guns and shooting continuously to save everyone. Unfortunately, he was attacked by a giant demon rat in the middle of it all and tragically lost his life. Everyone on the vehicle was now in extremely dangerous circumstances.
Right then, Ming-He and the nurse managed to successfully escape to the outside.
A dropped walkie-talkie kept reporting news about the appearance of the giant demon rat.
He quickly picked it up and asked the person on the other end to provide more information about the rat group and their weaknesses.
Then, ignoring the warning that the place was very dangerous for ordinary people, he insisted on going there because he didn't want to see them in danger without being able to help. The bus carrying doctors for evacuation was pushed to the edge of the bridge by the sewer rat. He instructed the nurse to hide carefully and rushed forward alone to stop it. He punched the rat right on its face. Seeing its enormous size, nearly the height of a house, he knew that one blow from it could potentially shatter his entire skeleton. The rat was very quick and clever. He lured it away from the bus, fighting and running, turning around to hit back whenever he had a chance. But the rat was tricky. It played dead and then suddenly attacked with its sharp claws when he got close. They chased each other relentlessly. He noticed a broken car leaking fuel. He moved skillfully, leading the rat to the exact spot he wanted.
Seeing the exhausted rat breathing heavily, He smiled and dropped his lighter on the fuel spill.
There were loud explosions, one after another, and the rat screamed in pain because it was scared of fire.
He's power could go up a lot with the help of this fire.
You filthy sewer beast dare to come up here and harm innocent people. Take this, he said. He unleashed a powerful blazing punch that destroyed everything in its path. The news of the general rank mutant monster defeated quickly spread through the command station, shocking everyone. A beautiful young woman stood in front of a big screen, using a walkie-talkie to share the news with her teammates. They didn't know who this person was. They thought he must be a superhuman who was not registered in the list, or maybe a skilled expert they couldn't recognize.
My brother is still in there. He's still unconscious in the hospital.
The crying girl was his elder sister. She was worried about her brother's safety and insisted on going inside to save him. When he heard his name, he turned around in surprise. Upon reuniting, the older sister stood in a daze for a few minutes and then rushed to hug her younger brother, crying uncontrollably.
It must have been a tough year for this sister of his while he was unconscious.
Going back to their beloved home and getting a good night's sleep was a pretty good idea, indeed.
The next morning, while having breakfast, he saw on TV that the government offered a reward of 50 million yuan for anyone who had clues about the source of the polluted fluid.
The reward for killing a mutant cockroach was 3,000 yuan, and for a mutated giant demon mouse, it was a whopping 50,000 yuan. With a money-making opportunity right in front of him, it made sense to take advantage of it. He suspected that the pollution source might be near the suburban hospital, so he decided to personally investigate it. But first, he needed to go to the bounty hall and learn how to participate.
The receptionist took him to a training venue where interns superhuman like him could demonstrate their abilities to be evaluated. Since his ability was punches, they brought him to a robot to test his punching power.
He flexed his wrist and then threw a powerful punch at the robot.
The robot immediately malfunctioned after receiving such a heavy blow, and the numbers on the display changed from 800 to 1,000 kg, breaking the record of the other trainees and surprising everyone.
Not only that, but he also received an extra 1,000 yuan shopping voucher, truly fitting for a main character who possessed the power of good luck.
There were lots of people gathered at the bounty, all there because they wanted to win the big rewards offered by the government. Hey there, you alone? Would you like to join the Crimson Eagles?
A friendly chubby guy came up to him when he didn't know where to go.
His name was Luo Kaixuan, seemed like the leader of the group.
But when he saw his Starlight rank intern badge, he turned him down, saying, "Sorry, our group doesn't take rookies." Hearing that, he realized his level was too low and nobody wanted him in their group. He scratched his head, not knowing how to join a team that met the hunting requirements. Just then, someone called his name.
They were all old classmates, and some hesitated to decline when they heard him talk about fighting monsters.
Luckily, a girl named Lin Yu convinced the rest of the team to let him join. As they walked, they laughed and talked, but Ming, he was thinking about the source of pollution.
From what he knew, there were 3 forms of mutant monsters, including mutant cockroaches, mutant maggots, and large mutant rats. They were all parasites that lived in the sewers. The pollutant was most likely a form of fluid that accidentally got into the sewer system, which caused the area to become a mutant hotspot, producing large numbers of mutated organisms.
Mutant cockroaches weren't difficult to deal with, but large mutant rats were much more intimidating. As for mutant maggots, logically, if they were mutated, they wouldn't be as strong as the cockroaches. They belonged to the easier-to-kill group. The group continued to walk, and while crossing the street, a sudden loud noise startled everyone. Oh no! Billions of maggots stuck together, forming a slimy pile and attacking cars and people. Run! They are mutant maggots. Ming! He shouted. They all quickly scattered to avoid the maggots' attack. Dealing with a single mutant maggot was bad enough, but now they had to face a whole swarm, and they didn't know how to handle it. Su Zhang started off, seeming calm and unafraid, but when he spotted the maggots, he quickly panicked and ran even faster than the rest of the team.
They all sprinted with full speed towards a building with reinforced glass doors. But then Ming, he realized that Lin Yu was missing. He hurriedly asked Wang Xiao Dang if she had seen her, only to find out that Lin Yu had tripped and fallen behind.
With the maggots approaching, Ming, he didn't hesitate and rushed to save his friend.
He forcefully punched a fire hydrant on the roadside, causing water to gush out vigorously. Using his special water manipulation ability, he harnessed the water to enhance his strength.
The massive water surge, known as the explosive wave punch, swept towards the maggots, scattering them and dragging them back into the sewer drain. Ming, his heroic act of rescuing the girl left the whole group amazed, and their gazes towards him changed instantly.
The timid ones, seeing that everyone was safe, could only awkwardly smile and offer their assistance in bandaging the girl's wounds. Ming, he stood up and announced that he would inspect the building to ensure there were no hidden entrances for the worms before leaving immediately.
His first stop was the laboratory. While looking around, he suddenly noticed that Vivarium 9 had a cracked outer glass.
Ming, he didn't pay much attention to it and calmly walked away. Unbeknownst to him, the insect inside the cage had disappeared 6 months ago. And to make matters worse, that missing creature happened to be a centipede.
After a while, the back door was locked tightly, and there weren't any other exits. The sewer system was also closed off, so those mutant maggots wouldn't be able to get in anymore.
Just as Ming, he was about to leave, he saw Dr. Zio running towards the broken-down building across the street. Ming, he wondered why he was going there, and suddenly his phone rang. It turned out to be the attractive nurse, Song Lan, calling to invite him for a fancy meal as a token of gratitude for saving her life. But he was busy and politely declined, saying he was in the isolated area to earn some money and lessen his sister's burden. While they were talking, Ming, he found out that Dr. Zhao had been acting strangely lately. He even made mistakes during operations sometimes. He seemed lethargic, like he hadn't been sleeping at all. Song Lan also mentioned that one day, the headquarters sent a sample of a calamity beast blood, and they wanted Dr. Zio to purify it, but he accidentally lost it. It happened about a year ago, which was the same time Ming, he was admitted to the hospital.
Hearing this, Ming, he immediately thought that the cause of the pollution could be connected to the calamity beast blood.
And maybe Dr. Zio came here to find the lost item. The situation was urgent now. He told Songlan that he would go meet Dr. Zhao and help him leave this place. Then he ended the call. Ming, he went back to the group and quickly told them that he had to leave to take care of some things. He didn't have time to stay longer, so he had to run off. Following Dr. Zio's trail, Ming-He arrived at an abandoned building and immediately noticed a large hole underneath. He bravely descended the rope ladder and saw Dr. Zhao sneaking into what looked like a research room.
Ming! He caught him red-handed as he climbed onto a container and sternly asked if Dr. Zhao had purified the Calamity Beast blood from a year ago.
"How did you know about that?" Dr. Zhao exclaimed. "Answer me, Ming," he demanded. Dr. Zhao suddenly trembled, and after a moment, while descending slowly, he started crying and begging for forgiveness. He claimed it was unintentional, and he didn't mean to conceal the truth. At that moment, a wicked expression began to appear on his face. But Ming-He, still unsuspicious, didn't realize it. "Ming," he advised Dr. Zhao to leave quickly and report everything to the government since an ordinary person like him couldn't handle this matter alone. "Ming," he explained everything, but it didn't register with Dr. Zhao. He stopped crying and immediately changed his tune when he heard Ming-He say he would take him to the government. "Ming-He, you're a student, so there are many things you can't understand," he said. He expressed his hatred for humanity, blaming them for causing environmental damage, to the point trash was not sent to outer space. He admitted to intending to use the mutated cockroaches, maggots, and rats to wipe out mankind and restore cleansing to the earth. He even believed that humans were like parasites, living off the planet and constantly destroying everything, like cancer cells. Throughout history, humans have multiplied excessively and remained incredibly greedy. As long as they exist, no planet can be beautiful and peaceful. Dr. Zhao, don't you think what you've said is anti-human? Ming, he argued. Hearing his points, Ming, he didn't know how to respond. Dr. Zhao had gone mad. His eyes were bloodshot, and his face showed a terrifying expression, as if he wanted to eradicate humanity right away. Dr. Zhao went crazy, and Ming, he kept reminding him that his carelessness had caused the deaths of many people. But Dr. Zhao seemed unconcerned. He was determined to treat every patient, believing that the earth was sick and humans were the root of all diseases in the universe and needed to be annihilated. With a sinister expression, he even expressed his intention to kill the people in Lanyang City first, and then everyone in other metropolitan areas. Ming-He, as an obstacle, would be eliminated immediately. He didn't care about the consequences. Ming-He was shocked when he heard Dr. Zhao's plan to contaminate the water supply pipes with the mutation source. It seemed unbelievable. Talking to this madman was a waste of time. Ming, he decided to quietly escape from there. Dr. Zhao was surprised that someone who seemed righteous didn't want to stop him. But Ming, he told him that he was just trash, that wasn't accepted into the Superhuman Institute. It wasn't hard to understand why he didn't want to get involved. After saying that, Ming, he quickly turned and ran away. Dr. Zhao reached into his pocket and discovered that the Calamity Beast blood was missing. He became so enraged that he couldn't control himself anymore, and his body began to exhibit signs of mutation. He had previously used himself for the mutation experiment, so now he was mutated, no different from those swarms of mutant monsters. This guy has gone completely mad. Seeing Dr. Zhao chasing right behind him, Ming, he increased his speed. He desperately grasped the rope ladder with both hands, hoping to escape. However, mutant creatures blocked his path. One of the creatures jumped up and severed the rope, causing Ming-He to lose his balance and fall. However, Ming-He was no ordinary person either. He stomped on the heads of the remaining creatures and used their force to propel himself high up. Just as he reached the edge of the pit, he performed the Mystic Bunch element extraction, and then he solidified the exit with cement. Ming, he had escaped. Dr. Zhao looked up with a wicked grin, licking his lips and saying, "You can't escape from me, Ming-He. I won't let you." Ming-He ran and thought about how to deal with the mutated creatures. Among them, the worms were the weakest, followed by the cockroaches and mice. If a living person turned into a mutant, would they be incredibly strong? In order to prevent any harm to Lin Yu, use group, Ming he chose to take a detour and buy time, hoping for government support to arrive. In the west, there was a ruined building where Luo Kayak Swan's team was on a mission. Suddenly, the sewer lid flew open, knocking him off. The super creature, Dr. Zio, appeared before everyone, looking imposing. However, they didn't show any fear. They even laughed mockingly, eager to defeat the person in front of them for a reward. Dr. Zhao started moving his limbs, targeting a frail young man first. At first, he managed to dodge and sneered at Dr. Zhao, thinking that someone so slow wouldn't survive. But to everyone's surprise, Dr. Zhao was not only faster, but also had an arm that extended and slammed him into the wall. Dr. Zio's left arm transformed, revealing sharp spikes that pierced through the young man. Seeing her comrade killed, a girl tried to seek revenge for her friend. She rushed in to fight but was quickly struck by his sweeping arm, cutting across her chest. She didn't have a chance to react and died instantly. Just as many other creatures from the sewer jumped up. Luckily, Dr. Zhao had another target in mind, allowing the remaining a chance to escape and survive. Ming, he was being chased by a group of dogs, and he suspected that they were tracking his scent to find him. He ran while carefully looking around. Oh, a lifesaver. It's a gas station. He quickly ran inside and decided to pour gasoline all over himself to trick the dogs and confuse their sense of smell. This plan actually worked pretty well. After he soaked himself in gasoline, the mutant creatures lost his trail and stopped chasing him. However, he knew it was only a temporary solution. Suddenly, one of the dogs separated from the pack and cautiously entered the store where Ming he was hiding. At first, Ming he relied on the sound to figure out where the dog was, but soon the footsteps stopped. Ming, he was about to step out and investigate when the dog unexpectedly jumped down from above. He quickly dodged to the side and, in a stroke of luck, pushed over a shelf, causing it to fall on the dog and pin it down. Realizing that running away forever wouldn't help, as he would eventually be found, Ming he knew there was only one way to survive, to defeat these creatures. He freed himself from the shelf, ready to face the challenge. The dog managed to break free from under the shelf after some struggling. Ming, he clenched his fists and focused on finding a way to save himself. Unfortunately, there was nothing useful in the supermarket to assist him. The aggressive dog relentlessly lunged at him, but Ming he fought back with all his might. He tried to evade its attacks, but on the third attempt, the dog managed to catch hold of him, its jaws aiming for his throat. Despite being attacked, Ming he managed to push a bottle of soda off a shelf, hitting the dog's head. This unexpected blow stunned the creature for a moment, giving Ming he an opportunity. He delivered a powerful punch to the dog's jaw, sending it flying away from him. Seizing this chance, Ming he continued to strike back. The end result was truly magnificent. He created a sizable hole in the wall, and the dog's lifeless body lay still on the ground. Outside, the pack leader's demise caused Dr. Zio's shoulder to explode. He gritted his teeth and with determination, he led the remaining creatures, following the scent of blood as they made their way towards the store. Seeing his fallen pet on the floor and his demeanor resembling that of John Wick, he commanded the other pets to tear into its corpse. He believed that by doing so, they could evolve and become stronger. The fight kept going, and he couldn't understand why. He tried to escape their pursuit while thinking, didn't I already get rid of the beast with heightened senses? So, how are the three other beasts coming straight at me? Ming he ran quickly to the amusement park, hoping to hide in its complicated terrain. But first, he needed to clean off the gasoline on his body. If by chance he came into contact with fire, he would burn like a Christmas bonfire. He quietly thought that maybe he should attack the leader first. At that moment, the group of monsters finally caught up. Compared to the last time they met, it hadn't been long, but now he couldn't recognize them anymore. The monster with evolved front limbs turned them into weapons and jumped down from a high wall. With its first swing, it tried to hit Ming He with an axe, but missed. Not only did it keep attacking tirelessly, but it also seemed more vicious than before. Seeing the unbalanced situation between the two sides, Ming, he felt like he had made a mistake. He turned around and ran immediately. His destination this time would be the roller coaster tracks. The space there was very narrow, and if he could fight them one-on-one, it would be a fair match. The monsters climbed up one by one. Ming, he stayed calm and used Mystic Punch element extraction, turning his Mystic Punch into an iron fist. The first monster was the first to attack, and Ming, he aimed directly at it, punching through its abdomen and turning it into a donut instantly. One punch, one kill. It was really amazing. Even though the rank of these evolved lymphoma beasts was at least warlord rank, the other two creatures were also smart. One of them tried to sneak up behind Ming He, but unfortunately, he noticed it. The one on the opposite side suddenly jumped towards him, opening its big mouth as if it wanted to eat him. Ming He instinctively swung his fist, but to his surprise, the impact wasn't against flesh, but rather a formidable bone-made armor. With just a slight oversight, these monsters had evolved even further. This trouble hadn't even ended when another trouble arrived. He was surrounded by those creatures, but he reluctantly managed to fend them off with his iron-covered hands. Regrettably, those monsters were as tough as starving ticks. No matter how many times he struck them, it made no difference. Surprisingly, in the midst of the struggle, a high-speed roller coaster came roaring in and crashed directly into one of the monsters. Prior to reaching this point, he had passed by the control room and set up a trap to capture these creatures. Now, Ming, he found himself hanging precariously on the roller coaster tracks. Being at such a height, any misstep would mean instant death. Moreover, there was still one remaining creature. He maneuvered back and forth, evading the creature's attacks, and swiftly seized its two front limbs. Simultaneously releasing their grip, both of them plummeted to the ground with a resounding thud. The creature was dispatched. After dusting himself off, Ming, he searched for a restroom to cleanse himself of the grime. Nurse Song called to inform him that the government had discovered the building. Inside, they were in the process of eliminating numerous mutated creatures. Ming, he recounted the events to her and disclosed that he had successfully acquired the Calamity Beast blood. With it in his possession, there was hope of concocting an antidote. He implored Nurse Song to relay the information to the government and request the arrival of a skilled expert. The rest, however, would be left to his own determination. Dr. Zhao stood far away, watching Ming-Yi closely, and eventually he noticed the guy. The guy had transformed his appearance to seem normal, but his wickedness couldn't be hidden. "Save us, Ming-Yi," the Lin Yu group cried out. Dr. Zhao had captured them and hung them up high. Initially, Dr. Zhao had planned to kill them all, but he heard that Ming-Yi knew them, so he decided to keep them alive. Ming, he knew that he couldn't defeat the mutated Dr. Zhao.
Now, the only option was to stall for time and wait for help from the government.
To distract Dr. Zhao, he started talking about the meaning of life and the value and culture of humans. Finally, he proposed a hand-to-hand fight where the winner would be considered right. When Ming-Yi took out a Calamity Beast blood as a bet, the guy laughed, not sure whether to call him foolish or admire his unwavering confidence. Dr. Zhao said, "If you don't hand it over, I'll kill the four of them." Hearing this, the group couldn't help but cry. Dr. Zhao was overjoyed. Sharp thorns instantly emerged from his arms, and with the first swing, he pierced Zhang's knee. Su Zhang screamed in pain, his face contorting. On the second swing, he aimed for Lin Yu, but luckily it only grazed her shoulder. Ming, he clenched his teeth and pretended to run away. Dr. Zhao, slightly panicked, shouted, "If you run again, I'll pierce holes all over their bodies." He had to try his hardest to avoid making any wrong decisions. Dr. Zhao, seeing Ming, he put his mind to running away, immediately lost interest in the group and tried to prevent it by agreeing to a fight. He then extracted countless sharp thorns from his body and threw them around, creating a circle.
This circle would serve as the arena for their battle, and if he stepped out of it even once, one of his friends would be killed.
Both of them swiftly charged at each other, exchanging blows that resulted in bloodshed. Despite this, Dr. Zhao kept on taunting and mocking Ming-He. Dr. Zhao looked down on Ming-He, thinking him weak and incapable of even passing the Superhuman Institute's entrance exam, let alone defeating a highly powerful mutant.
With lightning speed, Dr. Zhao continuously launched attacks, narrowly missing vital points.
Ming-He's blood soaked his clothes, and he tightly gripped a wound while keeping his eyes fixed on his opponent. In the midst of the chaotic fight, he seized an opportunity and quickly sprayed his own blood into Dr. Zhao's eyes. This move caused the doctor to scream in agony. It turned out that one of the strongest mediums of the X1 fist is his own blood. He aggressively unleashed his blood-fiend fist on the doctor. Dr. Zhao was thrown backward and landed heavily on the thorns. One would have thought it was the end, but to everyone's surprise, the doctor was unfazed. He laughed and proceeded to pull out the thorns from his body. Before he could finish his sentence, he rushed forward and pummeled him with a barrage of punches. Despite exerting almost all his strength, Dr. Zhao remained unscathed. Dr. Zhao was clever and knew that he was skilled in using his fists, so he started fighting back.
They exchanged powerful punches, but the villain clearly had more strength.
He was knocked backward and had to endure a barrage of fast and forceful punches. He lost his advantage and finally curled up to defend himself against a direct punch from Dr. Zhao. At that moment, Dr. Zhao shifted his attention back to the friends hanging in midair. It turned out that the earlier punch had sent He beyond the boundary. As part of their agreement, Dr. Zhao claimed the right to take anyone's life, no matter how hard He tried to stop him. The people above began crying and begging for mercy, except for Lin Yu, who remained calm. Unfortunately, she was the first to be targeted. A sharp object flew through the air and struck the poor girl. Seeing Lin Yu hurt, He became furious, and his emotions were too intense to put into words.
Dr. Zhao laughed and confidently said that, as long as she didn't pull the spear out, she wouldn't die for now. But if she didn't receive the treatment within 5 minutes, she wouldn't have any chance of survival.
Upon hearing this, He immediately went to a thorny fence, thrusting his hand into it and letting the blood flow without shedding a tear. He said firmly, "Then before 5 minutes is up, I'll kill you." The battle continued once again, and Dr. Zhao remained confident and comfortable, considering himself stronger and looking down on his opponent. Do you know what doctors like me hate the most? It's people who survive after a suicide attempt. If you can't even succeed in something as easy as killing yourself, then what's the point of living? He taunted relentlessly, as if he wanted to drain all the will to survive from He's mind. Finally, he decided to put an end to this mismatched battle with a deadly move called the Colossus Hammer Smash. Sharp spikes emerged from his palm, and with a swift swing, they all came crashing down like rain. Thanks to his extraordinary luck, he managed to avoid them, but in doing so, he was inadvertently knocked out of the bound once again. Dr. Zhao achieved his desired outcome and gleefully laughed at this deceptive trick. He snapped off a sharp bone, preparing to take another life. He grew tired of his opponent's words, for they were not true. He emphasized that he had never attempted suicide, and his sister and friends genuinely cared about him. The one lacking care and attention was the doctor himself. Moreover, He's superpower was not blue spirit rank at all. In fact, a total of 49 punches had left a mark on the doctor's body, which was more than enough to end this battle. Employing the ultimate move star-marked galactic fists, he unleashed a flurry of strikes infused with tremendous power. It was clear that His superpower rank was actually Violet's soul, far surpassing Dr. Zhao's abilities. The doctor couldn't defend himself and could only scream in agony as the relentless assault pounded the ground, causing clouds of dust to rise and explosions to echo through the sky.
After a short while, when the dust settled, the doctor's previous position was nothing but a gigantic, lifeless hole.
Ming, he emerged as the victor, standing before the defeated doctor and proclaiming, "My current power is insignificant, but it's still 1,000 times greater than a disgusting evil bastard like you." After dealing with the monster, Ming he suppressed his pain and rushed to the control panel to safely bring everyone down to the ground. Each person, with tears in their eyes, expressed their gratitude and thanked him for saving their lives. Shortly after, the government team finally arrived at the scene. Leading the team was Commander Luo Lin, accompanied by a man named Lin Qingyu and several medical personnel. The injured individuals were promptly taken aside for treatment. Fortunately, the sharp spears that had pierced their bodies hadn't been pulled out yet, allowing a chance to save them. Luo Lin instructed her subordinate to survey the surroundings, but he told her that it wasn't necessary as everything had already been resolved. "It's dead. How? Who killed it?" she exclaimed in disbelief, questioning the students. They didn't answer verbally, but pointed towards Ming He. Ming He was getting first aid from a doctor. When he saw everyone looking at him, he nodded and took the chance to explain the whole process of tracking and fighting the monster. In addition, he handed Luo Lin the calamity beast blood he had clandestinely acquired from Dr. Zio's belongings. Luo Lin became even more intrigued, contemplating how someone at Ming He's apprentice starlight rank could surpass the Moonglow rank superhumans. Suddenly, Luo Lin recalled that Ming He was the arrogant and disobedient student who had disregarded her advice on the other side of the walkie-talkie. With the city's hero standing right before her, Luo Lin promptly seized the moment to invite Ming He to join their official superhuman organization. Facing the tempting invitation, Ming He didn't rush to accept it. Instead, he said he would think about it. After saying this, due to extreme exhaustion, Ming He stumbled and collapsed into unconsciousness.
Time passed, and the news spread quickly on TV.
The monsters were defeated, and the city of Lanyang finally achieved victory, so the people no longer had to live in fear. In the hospital, Ming He finally woke up after 2 days of being unconscious. The first person he saw was Nurse Song, who had been worried and taking care of him all this time. She told him that everyone knew about his victory over Dr. Zio, and the reporters were waiting outside to interview him. Ming, he didn't really care about that. Instead, he asked about Lin Yuyu's condition and was relieved to hear that everyone was okay. Just then, the hospital room door opened and General Li from the official superhuman organization entered. Luo Lin was by his side. They came to thank him for his timely intervention and also to recruit such a talented individual. Lu Ying used the excuse of an old friend to invite Nurse Song to a meal so as not to disturb their conversation. In the hospital room, only General Li and Ming He remained, and they started discussing the main issue. To ordinary people, it would be hard to believe that Ming He, at his level, could defeat Zhao Shuhua. But in fact, he did it. Not only did superhumans need to know how to make good use of their abilities, but they also needed to know how to use ingenuity. In general, Li's opinion, someone like Ming, he could be described as exceptional.
When Ming He heard the praise, he quickly tried to downplay it, attributing his victory solely to luck.
There's no need to be so humble. Good luck can only temporarily protect you. You matched wits with Zhao Shuhua for so long that you can't chalk it up as good luck, he said. General Li was well aware of Dr. Zio's hostile mindset, so he didn't consider his actions to be those of a madman. According to the government's findings, all the calamity demons originated from meteors. Every meteor harbored a creature that posed a threat to humanity. The first instinct among living creatures on Earth was to survive, but the first instinct of those meteor calamity demons was to kill, to slaughter. The investigation was still ongoing, but it remained unclear whether humans were merely parasites or the newborns of the universe.
The primary mission of the superhuman was to defeat these monsters, safeguarding the flame of human civilization and ensuring its perpetual existence.
To the point, General Lee directly informed Ming-He that he had two matters to confirm. Firstly, a year ago, a meteor called the Goddess suddenly appeared in the sky. Upon entering the atmosphere, it suddenly changed its trajectory and exploded above Earth, coincidentally affecting Ming-He and causing him to remain unconscious for a year. Suddenly, he inquired, "What did you see?"
Ming-He downplayed the fact that he saw a girl and instead mentioned seeing a dazzling light engulf the sky before losing consciousness. Without further questioning, General Lee walked towards the window. Recently, the government categorized calamities into 12 levels, ranging from level 1 to level 12. Dr. Zhao's plan to exploit the water pipelines for spreading mutations was classified as a level 6 disaster, whereas the Goddess meteor was designated as a level 9 catastrophe. The underlying reason for this classification was the peril posed by the object within the meteor, the Goddess, which could easily threaten the entirety of humanity.
Setting that matter aside, the second reason for General Lee's visit was to extend an invitation to Ming-He, urging him to join the government organization.
Ming-He sought to buy some time, expressing the need to consult with his sister before providing an answer.
Having nothing more to add, General Lee abruptly turned and left. Ming-He then closed his eyes and swiftly delved into a meditative state. In that state, he encountered a meticulously sculpted female statue.
But the statue promptly cracked, revealing a girl with an appearance akin to that of a divine being. Ming-He gazed at her and asked, "You are a grade 9 calamity?" She didn't deny it, but honestly admitted that she was at least a grade 11 calamity.
Her purpose of coming here was to annihilate humanity because she believed they were driven by greed and selfishness without any good intentions.
No, he couldn't make friends with her.
He came here not to listen to those words, so he turned his head and demanded to leave. She hastily stopped him and then explained that it was because of her that he had a strength-type superpower and the ability to train in her meditation dimension, which helped him make significant progress during his year-long coma.
He wasn't deceived. It may sound good, but in reality, they lived in a symbiotic state. If he died, she would die too. Not to mention, it was because of her that he fell into a coma and abandoned the idea of suicide.
He understood her goal of eradicating humanity, so he wanted to offer some advice. But before he finished his words, he was swiftly thrown back into reality.
As soon as He left the hospital, he was swarmed by reporters who demanded an interview. It was quite a struggle for him to break free from them and make his way to his sister's place. Suddenly, Luo Lin called. She reiterated the idea of joining the government organization, but he outright refused, stating that he wanted to attend the Superhuman Institute as his sister had wished. He would consider joining the organization after graduating. Luo Lin didn't give up and suggested another organization called the Dragon Tooth.
Since the tuition fees for the academy were quite high, after hearing Luo Lin discuss the salary policies and the freedom without constraints, he finally nodded in agreement.
From now on, he officially became a member of the Dragon Tooth.
Time passed by peacefully, and with the help of the bonus money, their lives became more manageable.
He actively began training himself vigorously in every aspect, both physically and intellectually. At the end of each day, he made sure to visit the goddess and engage in battles with the countless bosses she conjured up in her spare time. According to the human power rankings, he was now at least at the Moonglow rank, not too far from reaching the Sunblaze rank. In this world, having absolute domain meant that the power of the superhumans would drastically increase while the opponent would be restricted. They would need to follow the superhumans' rules in combat.
To put it simply, it's like playing a game where all the rules are in his favor. As soon as he heard this, he couldn't resist trying it out right away, but the goddess promptly advised against it. She urged him to focus on mastering what he already possessed, unless he wanted to risk being taken advantage of due to a momentary lapse. A month went by in the blink of an eye. Ming, he bid farewell to his sister and confidently boarded the train to participate in the selection process. At that moment, in Nando Exishan Industrial Zone, an eerie thick fog mysteriously descended. Two security guards patrolling the area at night suddenly found themselves lost in a maze, continuously circling back to their starting point.
Just then, strange noises echoed from behind them. As the older guard turned around, his heart skipped a beat when he witnessed a gigantic spider devouring his companion.
The man let out a desperate scream and ran as fast as he could, not daring to look back. Once he reached the control room, he trembled with fear as he fumbled to grab his phone and call for help. However, his fingers slipped and pressed the wrong buttons repeatedly, preventing him from making the call. Suddenly, he caught sight of a faint figure of a girl outside the window. Sensing the extreme danger, he shouted a warning and hastily opened the door to intervene. To his surprise, it wasn't a girl at all, but a monstrous creature with eerie, long hair resembling Medusas. After draining the life force from the unfortunate security guard and turning him into a lifeless husk, the creature moved on in search of a new prey. Meanwhile, Ming-He was still aboard the train en route to Nando. It was the start of the school season, and numerous parents were accompanying their children for enrollment. Initially, everything seemed ordinary, but suddenly the train was forced to make an emergency stop due to a malfunction.
The train came to a halt, the phone signal vanished, and a dense fog outside obscured vision. The presence of a shadowy figure looming outside the window heightened Ming-He's unease.
Disregarding the instructions to remain seated, he made up his mind to investigate the situation personally. At first, the train attendant tried to dissuade him, but upon learning that he was a superhuman, her demeanor changed. She invited Ming-He and Fang Neon Rong, the top student of the Superhuman Academy, to the front carriage for a discussion. However, the faces of the people there displayed clear disappointment upon seeing their enrollment papers and training badges. Ming-He didn't pay much attention to their reactions. He voiced his plan to assess the situation and, if it appeared safe, to proceed to an area with a signal to seek assistance. Everyone nodded in agreement.
They followed his lead, and the three of them ventured outside to see if any significant events were unfolding. Before departing, Ming-He took care to instruct the remaining train staff not to open the doors for anyone, regardless of the circumstances. The group proceeded into the dense fog, and along the way, they came up with some ideas to guess what was happening. The safety officer, Ki Ming, said that trains aren't affected by bad weather like planes. So if the train stopped, there must be a problem with the tracks.
He also thought that maybe some small animals were blocking the way. Meanwhile, the staff member Tan Exin was waiting near the door of carriage 2.
Suddenly, they saw a blurry figure of a girl outside the window. Tan Exin thought she might be a passenger and was about to open the door. But then she remembered Ming-He's advice and stopped.
At the same time, another passenger passing by saw the girl and told Tan Exin to open the door quickly. But Tan Exin refused and remembered what Ming-He had said. The passenger got angry and started insulting Tan Exin, calling her selfish. He pushed her away and opened the door himself, inviting the girl in. Before he could reach the girl, a monster appeared and grabbed him, pulling him outside. Tan Exin saw what happened and got scared. She tried to close the door with all her strength before the monster could get in.
Unfortunately, the monster caught her, but she held onto the door until it was shut, doing her best to complete her task. With the door closed, the people inside the train had no idea what had just happened. Another staff member, while making rounds on the train, noticed that door 2 hadn't been securely locked.
Assuming her colleague was careless, she approached to close it but was unaware that her friend had just sacrificed themselves.
Ming-He carefully examined the crawling marks and realized they were definitely not from an ordinary creature.
Coincidentally, he received a call from Commander Luo Lin, who had also received a notification. Due to the urgency of the situation, she quickly urged him and the others to evacuate as soon as they could start the train. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Ming, He swiftly slid down the mountainside to inform the remaining two to return to the train.
Initially, both Nian Rong and Qi Ming hesitated, but as soon as they heard about the potential presence of a monstrous creature in the fog, they obediently followed Ming He's lead. After running a few steps, Qi Ming was suddenly obstructed and tumbled to the ground. Upon opening his mouth to curse, he froze in shock upon seeing a dried-up corpse with one eye missing lying beneath him. Hearing the noise, Ming, He, and Nian Rong immediately halted and prepared to go back and help, but they were abruptly assaulted by several lashing tentacles.
Reacting swiftly, Ming, he pulled Nian Rong to the side just in the nick of time, narrowly escaping from being dragged away by that thing. The creature had now emerged, and facing such a horrifying entity, those without combat capabilities became hindrances. Ming, he urged them to flee, but before they could take any action, the tentacles started their onslaught.
Nian Rong was the first to be knocked down, while Ming he found himself entangled by the creature. In a fortunate turn of events, when the monster thought it had successfully captured him and drew the tentacle closer, Ming he swiftly activated his wrist joint and unleashed a powerful punch known as the Rapid Flying Punch.
The monster was sent flying several meters away, writhing in pain, clutching its wounded body. However, within a mere second, it slowly rose again, its tentacles tinged with a crimson hue, resembling blood.
The monstrous creature, enraged by the sudden attack on its home ground, became furious. The tentacles all converged towards Ming He, but he reacted quickly and struck back with incredible speed, overpowering them in no time. Ming, he landed a powerful punch on the creature, causing its flesh to tear open and revealing a hidden girl underneath. Ming, he was shocked, his eyes wide open as he never expected that the creature had swallowed the staff member Tan Exin whole.
He promptly pulled her out, only to find her soaked as if she had drowned.
Amidst the chaos, the creature fled and disappeared, leaving no trace. Ming, he chose not to chase it, as saving lives was more important. He gently placed the girl on the ground and performed artificial respiration to revive her. As the fog gradually cleared, the people inside the train could finally see outside. After frantic efforts, Ming, he successfully brought Tan Exin back to life. Ming, he and the others helped her and the other two onto the train. All the doors were closed tightly, and the train started moving, swiftly passing through the fog without lingering any further. At that time, in Exioyoshi village, the wanderer amidst the thick fog was King Yu from the official organization. He received a phone call from Luo Lin. She informed him that a month ago, the officials had detected the presence of a calamity meteor in the forest of Nando's western suburbs. According to the investigation, other than the appearance of large amounts of steam near the crater, there were no other abnormalities. However, recently the nearby industrial area had experienced a series of unusual events, suggesting an unknown catastrophe.
The higher-ups had named it the Mist. Areas covered by the mist would witness the appearance of mysterious calamity beasts.
But when the fog disappeared, the creatures vanished completely, leaving no trace.
According to those who accidentally entered the fog, there were massive calamity beasts within it. Perhaps there were even emperor-class beasts and a colossal creature, a patterned centipede, which had gone missing from the research center half a year ago. Luo Lin clarified that the creature was not an extraterrestrial being from Enigma. If they could capture it, they might uncover valuable clues.
"Don't worry, I'll definitely bring it back," King Yu declared. Just as he finished speaking, there was a knock on King Yu's door. It had arrived, and coincidentally, it was the little centipede itself.
After taking the female staff member to the hospital, Ming he quickly left. Suddenly, he received an unfamiliar phone call. As soon as he heard the voice on the other end, Ming, his face turned red with excitement.
It was his old crush, Lu Qian, who called. They swiftly arranged to meet right outside the gates of the Nandu Superhuman Institute. Ming he arrived promptly, And to his delight, Lu Qian was also very on time. She even suggested grabbing a cup of coffee together. His love letter, which Lu Qian had accepted while he was in the hospital, had been secretly torn apart by a jealous person. This left their relationship somewhat ambiguous. Lu Qian thought they were dating, while Ming He believed he had been rejected. Once they reached the coffee shop, Lu Qian nervously asked Ming He if he had intentionally come to Namdu to find her. To her surprise, he honestly denied it and instead shared the story of his encounter with the creatures inside the mist.
He also proudly informed her that he had become a superhuman.
Unfortunately, before he could hand her the badge, an old classmate named Fan Kai snatched it away. Fan Kai even looked down on Ming He for still being at the Starlight rank. This guy was the person who ripped apart the love letter that Lu Qian had accepted while Ming He was unconscious. When he saw Lu Qian, he approached to start a conversation, but was rejected by both of them.
He looked visibly angry and slammed the table before leaving. Not long after, Lu Qian received a call from someone that forced her to cancel their date. With Lu Qian gone, Ming He had no choice but to head straight to the examination venue.
There, he struck up a conversation with another candidate named Peng Ling Hui. From Peng Ling Hui's incoherent words, Ming He discovered a shocking truth. The special admission exam was just a cover-up for wealthy individuals without any real abilities to gain unfair advantages. As someone from a humble background, Ming He felt like all hope was lost. Before entering the exam area, the examiner read out a few names. However, when they reached Ming He's name, they suddenly paused.
What was going on? How could someone as untalented and weak as him be recommended by the government? This special selection process was divided into 5 parts, 4 of which tested physical and combat abilities. Ming, he was the first one to begin, with the task of striking a strength dummy with a force of at least 1,500 kg to pass.
Approaching the strength dummy, Ming He took a deep breath. He had previously attempted 1,000 kg, and now needed to give it his all for 1,500 kg, or else he wouldn't stand a chance. With determination, he vigorously moved his wrist and delivered a powerful punch, exerting even more strength than before, causing the machine to immediately explode.
The number displayed on the electronic board showed 2,200 kg. It was evident that everyone was in a state of panic and confusion at that moment.
The second round in the entrance exam was speed, where all the contestants were allowed to run and dodge freely, as long as they didn't get knocked down by the general rank Crimson Cheetah. If they managed to avoid being knocked down, they passed this part of the exam.
The test began, and to Ming He's surprise, the cheetah started behaving strangely, pretending to stumble before even reaching him. Ming He felt helpless and didn't know what to say. But suddenly, the cheetah shifted its attention towards Ming He. In a blink of an eye, it transformed from a clumsy and foolish sick cat into a general rank Crimson Cheetah.
Now, Ming He became the prey being chased, but after just 15 minutes, everything changed. The situation turned completely upside down, to the point where even the owner of the cheetah rushed out and begged Ming He to spare their sick pet. They pleaded for mercy and requested that he didn't harm the cheetah any further. It was a pitiful sight.
Having witnessed Ming He's outstanding performance in both rounds of the exam, the examiner remained completely unperturbed.
In fact, he had already accepted a substantial bribe from another parent prior to the exam. This individual not only wanted their own child to succeed, but also desired to force Ming He into retreat. With the large donation in hand, the examiner had no other choice but to resort to coercion.
The third round was a reaction time, where all the participants were brought before a demon tree.
Despite its lifeless appearance, a single drop of blood would instantaneously revive the tree, turning it into a frenzied attacker of any nearby creatures.
Each contestant was called by name and entered a designated circle, aiming to avoid being struck by the demonic tree in order to pass the test. Ming He felt disheartened as he observed VIP players effortlessly progressing through the challenge, while his own portion always seemed more arduous.
Nevertheless, for someone with Ming, He's abilities and comprehensive training, the speed of the test posed no significant challenge. He relentlessly unleashed his full speed and strength for a continuous 5 minutes, causing the demon tree to succumb to exhaustion. Ming He flawlessly completed the exam, leaving everyone in awe. The assistant, who resorted to foul play by donating an excessive amount of blood, could no longer withstand the strain and collapsed. He was promptly transported to the medical room for a blood transfusion.